No, I thought the intro was beautiful. I actually had no idea what you were going to say. I couldn't remember if I told you anything about me or if you just stalked me or I don't know where that came from. That was accurate. Yeah, I'm a dev turned artist. That's a whole other story that doesn't fit in 5 minutes. But that's me. Yeah, currently I'm the art department, really, for an indie studio called Hydrock. And so as a creative pro and someone that's coming from like design thinking, I often think about personal challenges through a design lens as well. And that kind of set me on a journey uh, of gamifying my life, using game design principles to try and improve the different aspects of my life. Now, early experiments were a bit extra. This is a prototype. This is kind of the board game of my life, really. I can't go into the details in 5 minutes, which should tell you something. It should tell you it's a bad idea. Your life's already pretty complex, and adding complexity by trying to build the perfect system it doesn't really work out. Furthermore, just side story, when I was working on this, I remember I had a date during that time, and she came home and saw this monstrosity taking up half of my workspace in my bedroom, all set up, and was immediately very confused and concerned for my mental health, and rightly so. It kind of killed the vibe, but that's not the only reason not to go down that path. You might think from the title of my talk, that's where we're going, but I'm advising an agile approach, let's say. Yeah, lightning talk, let's just talk about a few game design principles that we use at Hydrock and that kind of apply pretty nicely to personal lives as well. Epic narratives. So something I learned this week actually was that the game Minesweeper actually has a plot. Quite unnecessary. Are you reading the Minesweeper book? Yeah, it's wild.
Like 3 weeks ago, and it blew Kirk's mind because he was like, "What do you mean you didn't know?" And I was like, "Well, how would I know? There's nothing that gives instructions." So like, plot lines in Minesweeper, who knew?
Yeah, Minesweeper has deep lore. Who knew? But you know, that's just one of many examples. I don't know if there's any Stellaris fans in the audience. I mean, it's kind of spreadsheets with a cool story, if you ask me. And yeah, that just underscores the importance of narrative and how powerful it is for kind of orienting us and motivating us. So bringing it back to personal lives, we all kind of know about goal setting and kind of chunking projects down into measurable steps. But I like to think of another layer, kind of above that I call quests. So whereas goals might be, you know, your SMART goals, specific, measurable, actionable, they have deadlines. Quests, no. Quests could be they could be literally unattainable, they could be ongoing, they could be fuzzy, evolving. The only thing they really have to be is exciting, something to orient your goals by. So when you think about goals, think about quests as well. Juicy feedback, probably the most important thing in game design, arguably. And this is something where the game of life is kind of not very well designed often. A lot of milestones we have might be distant or kind of fuzzy enough that we can't really measure progress towards them in the moment. But one thing we can very easily measure, of course, is our personal actions. So what I like to do to kind of lock in juicier feedback in my life is think about, I call them tactics, but they're really just personal habits. I have a short list, simple stuff, you know, move every day, that kind of thing, nothing too crazy. And I use these as my one criterion for kind of feedback in terms of life progress and success wherever possible. Clear game loop. So the classic example would be from RPGs, I guess. You got the safe town area, and you prep, you go out into the dungeon area and do the thing, rinse and repeat. And we can use this kind of rhythm in our lives as well. So I kind of think of my working day as the dungeon part, and at night is usually like the town phase for me. And you know, it's nothing fancy again. For me, it's just journaling, and very simple journaling. Like, we're not talking a lot of writing. I call it micro journaling, actually. I usually just look at my tactics from the previous principle, and I can tick them off. I can even give myself a score if I want, and maybe adjust from there. I could go on. This is just a taster because we only have 5 minutes, which have probably already blown out. But yeah, talk to me afterwards and we can geek out about game design together and lifestyle design. I guess the kind of underlying mindset though, coming back to that board game of life I kind of attempted early on, you know, when I think about it, really I was trying to get to this perfect system because I wanted control. Like, it wasn't coming from a good place. It was coming from like not a very empowering attitude. So to quote Sid Meier and probably other designers, it's best to follow the fun. You know, we play games to play them, not to 100% them. Well, most of us don't. And life is similar, you know, so optimize for the player experience in your life using these principles. Thanks.